Throughout history, no one except for the Fonz has thrown more thumbs-up poses than Terry Tenette. Known by all as Mr. T, the San Jose native brought a full pull wheelie the entire track riding style to our sport. In fact, he might even be credited for inventing the term pull. Tenette was well known for his many trademark styles and moves. From running an extremely long 40-inch wheelbase to running big gears with a sprocket protector or racing with a weight belt, Terry and his proteges brought back the long-lost NorCal pride to 80s and 90s BMX. After turning pro in '87, Mr. T went on to win 3 consecutive NBL National #1 Pro titles, the only pro to ever do so in the NBL. He then followed it up with a 1993 National #1 Pro Cruiser Championship in the ABA. Retiring from pro competition after 10 years, he tallied up 90 AA Pro mains, scoring 11 wins out of his 25 podiums. But it wouldn't be the last time the cycling world would hear his name, as Tenette would go on to race track bikes in velodrome and compete in cyclocross events, as well as racing downhill and slalom mountain bikes, earning World Cup results in all events. Please give a huge shout out to one of the most impressive, well-rounded cyclists that BMX has ever seen, Terry Tenette.
Thank you everyone. Honored to be up here. We'll go through it quick. I know everyone's cold. I know I need to pee. I'd like to thank USA BMX for giving me lane 5 up here. Notice the other slots are open. But yeah, it's been a great journey. I'm going to start off from 1984. I'll do it kind of the Facebook way, at Boss Racing, how we do it, hashtag kind of slash something. So anyway, long story short, 1984, racing local BMX, NorCal, Moffett Field, a lot of guys out there supporting NorCal and the events that were put on back then. We always had that rivalry against LA. The term was treat LA. Yeah, that's how we roll there, it's all about that. Local practices, local pump tracks that they're called today. We just called them backyard tracks. Started with Billy Griggs, Eric Carter. Those guys invented the backyard tracks. Now they're called pump tracks. So anyway, back in the day, what we did was we tried to emulate the riders that we wanted to be. So we would practice, pimping in the corner. We practiced pulling. Pulling came from a term from tractor pulls. Back in the late 80s, you guys remember tractor pulls. I went to a guy's house, Rip Cecil Johns, and I was like, next national, I'm pulling like a tractor. So anyway, we refined it. And some of the funniest parts of it is that a lot of you guys know I was teammates with Pistol Pete for a number of years. And so being teammates with another high testosterone athlete, in a sense, take no crap, put you over the berm. You talking to me, oh, you want some? Bring it, bro, bring it. So what Pete realized after being teammates with me for a number of years is that when we got to the national and we met in the airport, it was pretty standard. What's up, T? First thing out of my mouth, I'm pulling. What's up, Pete? Oh, I'm treating. But what he didn't realize is that the guy who's pulling is actually winning. But it took him a while to catch on to that, so it was great. We had a great rivalry on that one. So once again, we get to, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. What's up, Pete? Oh, I'm treating. I was like, yeah, I'm pulling. So he came back a couple weeks later, next couple weeks, wherever we are next, who knows? Maybe it was NBL, ABA. Once again, Pete, how's it going? Oh, I'm treating. Hey, Tenette, how's it going? Oh, dude, I'm pulling everyone. So we went back and forth like that, and those are like the subtleties that fueled us to be champions in the sport of BMX. And those are a lot of the overlooked things that happened behind the scenes in terms of hotel, airport, rental cars. It was the small talk that made us champions, and myself. So moving forward from there, I met a guy named Carlo Lucia. Okay, he was the owner of Boss Racing. Okay, he took me under his wing, and he took what I had naturally, which was, you're not beating me, I'll cut you off, you talking to me, you want some. Okay, he kind of compacted that into me moving forward. We worked on my gate starts, we worked on my pull, we worked on pedaling out of the corners. That's where the power wheelie came from. We realized that coming out of a berm, you know, back in our day, the berms were 4 feet high. They're not these 30-foot walls. So the advantage that we developed back in 1984 was that with a low berm, if you come in at the right apex and you come out on the back wheel, you can steer the bike on the back wheel. That came from Kenny Roberts, motorcycle road racing. So we kind of pioneered that technique, which was come out of the corner, pivot the wheel on the back tire, and come out of the corner with a straighter line. So that's where the power wheelie actually came from. Kenny Roberts road racing that transferred into BMX on the low profile berms. Moving forward, I moved on to CW racing. We kind of pioneered the bikes then. Pistol Pete had Pistol Pete handlebars, Pistol Pete frame and fork. I came in kind of in the neon era. We had the green bikes, the orange bikes. Greg Hill had his orange GHB. You know, and obviously the green fluorescents have all come back full circle. But we kind of pioneered that, you know, colors and, you know, painted rims and, you know, white spokes with blue rims. And so that was a great time. Moving forward from there, I got on MCS, Bill Prince. Yep.
Yeah, Bill Prince!
Jeff DeVito, MCS Racing. I found myself in Florida in 1988, sleeping on a floor, Sean Newberry, you know what I mean? Riding in an 82 Toyota Corolla. Bill Prince gave me a call and said, hey T, you know, you want to come ride for us? You know, it's an East Coast team, I'm NorCal. I'm like, wow, you know, I can't find anything in NorCal. Bill's like, no, come ride with us. So once again, that started the journey of being a top pro. So I moved on from amateur, number 2 amateur in the nation, moved on to MCS Racing, and built a pro career from there. I flew to Florida, we talked, we met with Greg Esser, we discussed a bike of specifics for myself. Bill Ryan originally had made the prototype, and what we basically did was we put a cruiser back end on a 20-inch, and then when I went to MCS, Greg Esser, we refined it down. So what we were looking at is a 19.5-inch top tube and a 17-inch back end. And so, you know, it's kind of an odd build, but it worked. Because back then it was all about pedaling backsides. And I noticed today there's a few guys out there pedaling backsides, but back then you had to pedal backsides. You know, you needed to make as much ground as you could. The berms were small, you had to utilize the straightaways. Moving forward from there, that bike kind of innovated the next level of BMX. That bike allowed myself and others that followed along, like Cyclecraft and other companies that started creating, quote, the limo. Free Agent kind of coined that with Todd Slavic. Those bikes handled really well for the time. Yeah, the angles were slacked, bottom brackets were a little lower, but that's what worked for the era. So I was proud to be kind of the pioneer of the long wheelbase, the power wheelie, and also the coined terms of pimp, pull, treat. You know, it went on from there. I'm going to keep it PG, but so moving forward from there, yeah, that led to some titles. I know the first guy I cut off was Greg Hill, and it was an honor to cut off Greg Hill. I have the video. I think he's seen the clip, you know, and so we had a little payback going back then. So, you know, so I had to come through with the Mr. T elbow. So, but I had a great career. I have no complaints. I'm honored to be in the ABA, My Generation USA BMX family. I spoke with Clayton John this morning, brought up some memories from the old Bakersfield track. Some of you guys remember Bakersfield, Kern County. There was a race there where they had 5 straightaways, and guys were puking at the finish line. And Clayton decided the next day that we were going to take out 2 of the straightaways. So, you know, that was just, once again, you know, pioneering days of BMX, trying to figure out what length was going to be right. I think that track was like 2,000 feet. You know, now they're whatever they are. But good times, very good times. I think I was 5th in the semi one day, and I went up to the ABA booth, and Clayton kind of mentored me and said, hey pal, you know, that's how it is, you know, you win some, you lose some. The next day I came back and smoked Doug Davis. So anyway, good memories, good times. Moving into the National One titles, my focus back then was just win. I've always been driven to win. You know, it's a sensitive subject, but I do suffer from depression. My form of depression is I go hide. So I can come up here and be animated and stuff, and then I go hide under the covers. So it's a serious thing. I'm keeping it light, but it's serious. I deal with it. It runs in the family. Moving forward from there, my pro career was truly driven by insecurities, just being honest. I hated to lose. I don't like being looked down as an individual that can't do. So I've always been willing to put in the work, the effort, the time, the energy, whatever it may be, sacrificing many things, school dances, quote parties, this, that, and the other. T, where are you going? Bro, I got a race tomorrow. I'm racing 3 classes. You know what I mean? When all the other guys were out at, okay, I'll throw this out there. When other pros were out at the clubs at night, I was back in the room. I was sleeping. Most people know me for that. I got invited to Eddie King's party last night. Well, I was in bed at 8:30. That's just my style. But that's me. That's Tenette. You know what I mean? Because I needed to prepare for this. I gotta get my beauty sleep. So I shook Eddie's hand and said, "Hey, thank you very much, but I gotta get my rest, bro." So, it just went on from there. So the main focus is that I was an extremely driven athlete. I'm still driven in different directions now. I'm still an overall cyclist. I still ride road bike, crits, cyclocross, velodrome, you name it, I'm still out there doing it. Last year, before the ABA Grands, I got into dirt bike riding. I got a YZ 250 and a CRF 450, and I'm thinking I'm going to be the next James Stewart. And guess what happened? I swapped out through the whoop-de-doos like James Stewart. So that bike's sitting in my garage, and I've had 6 weeks of back traction ever since. So anyone that knows lower back, my L5 is gone. So yeah, so now they're talking about fusion and cortisone injections and this and that. I'm like, no, can't I just do some deadlifts and get over this? So anyway, moving forward from there, once again, extremely driven athlete, still to this day. I like the progression of the sport. I'd like to see a little more pedaling come back. We spoke about that this morning in terms of, it was great watching everyone today, but it would have really been nice to see, like on that third straightaway, have them literally put their head down and just crank it out, and, But, that's my generation. This is their generation. I appreciate, where they're at and where I was at. And I think hopefully one day we'll all come around full circle, and like I say, add a couple straightaways of pedaling, a couple straightaways of technical rhythm, and, just kind of reunite everyone. Once again, back on being #1 pro. After I won the first title, that kind of put a fire under me, and I was hungry again. And I was like, wow, I'm going to do it again next year. The contracts me and Pistol Pete had at the time, Pistol Pete was the contracted ABA rider, I was the contracted MBL rider. And that's how we kind of split the divisions. And going back in the history of the sport, it was kind of like that. CW and GT, they had an East Coast squad. CW had a East and West Coast squad. That's just kind of how it worked. And so I joined kind of the Vans, Tioga, MCS, East Coast squad. And it was a great relationship. Me and Pete would come together, Arizona or some of the West Coast races, but predominantly I was the MBL guy, he was the ABA guy, and it really worked out well. We kind of once again created our own rivalry within, and it fueled us. He won the ABA titles, I won the MBL titles. I continued with Pro Cruiser. Pete wasn't interested in Pro Cruiser. I'd love to see Pro Cruiser come back into our sport. But that was the energy back then that we created within our own team. Me and Pistol Pete, we were definitely, there was a quote, the dynamic duel, and we kind of were, and we would strategize at night, we would talk about things at dinner. I remember quotes like, yeah, well, if Harry's got lane 7 and I got 5, I'm moving over on him, and you just don't hear that kind of talk anymore, and it's like, it was pretty classic for me. T's got lane 8, he's cutting over windshield wiper. And windshield wiper was a term I got from a Mercedes car. When they came out with the single wiper that sweeps across, I was like, yeah, I'm cutting over. Yeah, Mercedes. And it was just a key word, and Dale Holmes has coined me on that too. Hey, T, you gonna play him windshield wiper? And I'm like, yeah, dude, lane 8 to lane 1 before the 30-foot line. Yeah. Oh yeah, they have no chance. And and I was good at that, and Pete was good at that too. So he would come out of lane 3, I'd come out of 8, we'd meet somewhere in the middle of the track, and I would pull him and he would treat, or pimp. So, and then once again, the coin terms, there were subtleties to what the process was, which was we were there to win. So we always had that subculture of words that worked underneath the competition that we had. We could be standing in line and I'd be like, I'm pulling, Pete, and it'd go over people's head, and once again Pete would be like, yeah, T, I'm treating, And we would look around to see who reacted, and no one reacted. No one knew. You know, they just really didn't know what we were saying. Obviously, years came on, and they're like, okay, we know what's going on. These guys got a little subculture language. Another thing, gate choice. Todd Lyons called me on this years ago at the MBL. A lot of times, you know, as we saw today, you get up on the gate, you know, yeah, it's supposed to be an 8-man moto. We got there's 6 guys, okay, taking 4. Well, I'd look around and go, ooh, lane 3's open. Todd Lyons would go, T, you got lane 7. You know, so there was, you know, we had our things that we did to try to better our positions, you know, on the gate and, you know, strategize and stuff like that. And moving on to the future, I graduated into mountain bike racing. So the extension of BMX was going into the BMXers were finally getting some respect as being BMXers and overall riders in terms of bike handling and what we do. And so I moved into mountain biking, and that kind of worked full circle for a lot of us. A lot of us crossed over, a lot of us came back like myself, and it really worked out. And so what I'd like to see today and tell everyone is that being overall an overall cyclist is really where you want to be. You know, BMX is a great platform to move to other disciplines and then come back and reflect on what you did as a BMXer, and it really enhances your BMX. And a lot of people haven't experienced that, but it's something I'd like to say to the entire audience is that if you're still able to ride, try different disciplines, especially the youth, and then come back to BMX, and you'll find yourself being a far more well-rounded BMXer. And that was something that I pioneered early on. I always focused on being overall. You know, it was never about just going to the track and doing 20 gate starts and going home. I'd go home and get on my road bike. I'd go home and get on my mountain bike. I'd go home and get on what they call now a fixie bike, which is a velodrome bike. I always mixed it up. And so from that standpoint, it made me an overall rider. It made me appreciate what my God-given gift was, which was to be a good BMX racer, to adapt. And it's a wonderful experience. And so going through the thank yous, you know, yes, mom and dad, you know, they got me started in 1978, Fred Watson Park, San Jose, California. Kid in the neighborhood, Paperboy, I was smoking him on my Royce Union bike with Moto Mags. So what happened was the kid's dad talked to my dad and said, hey, can I take him out to the track? I went out there, beat his son, got a bike shop sponsor, and moved my way up. But from those grassroots beginnings, as we all know, it started with mom and pop. My dad was working 6 days a week. I didn't even know because I'm a 10-year-old kid thinking, oh yeah, the money's just coming in. No, his Saturday job paid for me to go to the races on Sunday. You know, so a lot of heart put into it. You know, they stood by me. Yeah, it's just, you know, heart and soul. You know, and a lot of people don't realize that. You know, I see a lot of kids today taking things for granted, and it's like, dude, it's all about your mom and dad. You know, wait until you have to get a real job, and then look at, you know, the expenses that go into being at a great event like this. You know, and so there was a lot of realities I learned early on, and had respect for my parents in terms of their involvement and, you know, pushing me forward, keeping me out of the depressive type mode that runs in our family, which is doubt. So I doubt myself, and through doubt, that made me a champion. So, you know, there's ways out of it, and there's ways to move forward, there's ways to be positive. I had to find those ways for myself. I had people telling me this and that, but I had to work it out for myself. And so for me, to stay out of that depressive mode was always being progressive. Always looking forward to the next big thing, the next great championship, and referring back, that's what fueled me to be a 3-time national champ. You know, I'm thinking I can't win this and that. Come on, T, you can do it. This and that, patting me on the back. Da, da, da. Yeah, sure enough, boom. We got the podium, whatever they call them now. Whatever, the fake check. You know, in his shop. You know what I mean? But it was him who motivated me, got me out of that kind of doubt state of it being a mud race. Quote, having lane 8, and I won the race. You know, so. Just things like that, having positive people around you, moving forward, just trying to just keep moving forward. That's all. That's basically what the whole point is. So I know a lot of us have issues, and once again, the main point is keep moving forward. Look beyond what your depression is, or you know what's coming on, and just keep things positive. Once again, if it wasn't for USA BMX, I wouldn't be up here. If it wasn't for USA BMX, I would have never had anything that I have now, because I wasn't so much a lost kid, but I knew BMX was something that I wanted to do. A lot of us grew up with the same kind of upbringing. My parents didn't allow me to have a dirt bike. All the kids in the neighborhood had YZ80s, and that's all I ever wanted. I wanted a YZ80. So I used to go around following these guys out of a place called the Palo Alto Baylands, and that's where Redmond's kind of a witness of this. Back in the earliest days, I was already going brap, 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 and now they call it rev limiter and this and that. I was brapping years ago. Now it's on every shirt, rap, and it's like, wait a minute, that's my turn. So that went all the way back to Woodward Camp, Gary Ream. We were doing it back then in 92, 93, 94. We'd go around the track and rap every time we went over a jump, rap, and it's amazing how they've commercialized that, but I want to say that I was the originator of rap. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to keep it short. That's pretty much. Yeah. Coming out of lane five, got a little shorter distance than lane 8 over there. So anyway, I'd like to say thank you to everyone. Appreciate everyone coming out. And anyone that knows me, there is no real speech. I'm up here with no practice. So yeah.